Welcome to Jamie TV, thank you very much for tuning in. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do auto sampling with the brand new Digistix 2 with no pissy panting about. But what is auto sampling, I hear some of you may be possibly asking. Well, sampling would normally involve recording some source audio into some device or software, and usually you'd have to do that one sound at a time. But Digistix 2 wants to take all of the pain and misery out of sampling for you, and I'm going to show you how to do this both for software on your iPad and also how to do this with an external device. Unfortunately, I don't actually have any hardware synths or anything, so I'm going to be using this old Dr. Rhythm DR5. We'll pick some random sound out of here and well, let's see what we can make of it. Okay, let's talk about my very simple setup here and what we've got going on, how it's wired up. Here's Digistix 2 in standalone mode. The DR5 has a MIDI cable in it that I found very cheaply on Amazon. It's just two typical MIDI connectors to USB. So the USB comes in here into my USB hub. Also plugged into the hub is the Akai MPK Mini and the iRig Pro Duo. That's only plugged in there for transference of information. I always use the mains adapter whenever I'm using the iRig Pro Duo in the studio. So we've got two cables coming out of the DR5, two jack leads left and right into the iRig Pro Duo left and well, actually we've only got one of them. One of them is unplugged at the moment so that I can have my microphone plugged in so I can talk to you. In a moment I will take the microphone out and plug this lead in. Okay, so what will happen is that Digistix 2 will send MIDI information out that will come to the iRig Pro Duo, across to the hub and to the DR5. That will make the DR5 produce sound. The sound will come out of here into the iRig Pro Duo and Digistix 2 will record it. Okay, so here's how we make this happen in Digistix 2. We go to Bank and select User. Then we go to this burger icon and we go to Create New Drum Kit. And we're going to call this DR5 Steel Drums, because that's just the sound that happens to be on the DR5 at the moment, and you never know, it might be fun to sample it. Okay, and then we come to this burger icon and we go to Auto Sample. Now here is where we set up our auto sampling options. First thing I want to show you, if you go to defaults, you can choose how you would like the samples to be labeled. So you can choose the Digistix defaults or the general MIDI defaults, or what I'm going to choose is blank names because I'm sampling musical notes, so I want to label them in my own way after the fact. So let's go with that. Now, Digistix has 64 pads available for different sounds, and these are divided into 4 banks of 16. So I want my first sample to be in bank A on pad 1. Here, the trigger level, this is kind of like a gate. So the volume coming into Digistix 2 will need to be louder than this trigger level in order to be recorded. You can use this to cut off some unwanted background noise. Now, note count, I want to sample 64 notes, so I'm going to take this all the way up to the top. Now, start note is the lowest notes that you want to sample from the hardware that you are recording in. Then the lowest note I want is way down here. Sample layers we're going to leave at 1. Any more than 1 sample layer, that's a topic for another video. Note length I'm going to take all the way up because I'm recording musical notes in, and trail time as well. I want them to be as long as we can manage. Pause time is used to cut off any effects that might spill over. So let's say for instance, if you're sampling sounds that have reverb on, you might want to add a longer pause time so that you don't get any reverb from the last note spilling over into the next one that's going to be recorded. But mine has no reverb on, so I think this will be sufficient here, and I'm going to take the maximum velocity up to 127. Now I'm going to put the monitor button on so that I can hear the notes that are coming in, but be careful with this. Depending how you have your interface etc. wired up, you may create a feedback loop with this. I've now got 64 samples of that sound from DR5, starting at C0 here in pad bank 1, going all the way up, right up to some incredibly stupidly high notes. And I can also of course play those notes now with my controller keyboard. If I wish to edit any one of those samples, that's the Compad Bank 1 sample 1, I can go to this little noggin here where I can do a crop, I can fade in, fade out, normalize, even reverse the sample. And if I want to rename the sample, I click here, and just give me a couple of minutes. I'm going to rename all those samples now. And I'm back, and now you'll see that I've got 64 notes all labeled with their corresponding notage. I've got everything from C0 right up to D#5, but the really neat thing about this is that as I change through these banks, you'll see that down here the notes down the side of the sequencer are changing, and that means that just by flicking through these banks I can actually arrange all 64 notes in this sequencer here. So let's just throw a sequence in real quick just for a laugh. We'll have a E there, and let's go with a minor third there, and we'll go with a flat 7. Where does that want to be? That wants to be here, I think. And then we'll go back to the roots here, and let's have a little rundown through the blue note here, and let's see what that sounds like. Okay, but more on that later. And now, how to do the same thing with some iOS software. For this example, I want to record this drum kit from Sample Tank. It's 24 notes and it starts at B0. Let's just go back to AUM. Now, in order to record the audio coming out of Sample Tank, Digistix 2 needs to be in the effects slot, but it also needs to send MIDI information to Sample Tank. So we go here, click the burger icon, select Digistix 2, and now you'll see that the circle surrounding Digistix 2 has this new edge to it, and that edge means you're not so stupid, hippie, you've set this up correctly. Now we go in here, and just like before in user bank, we set up a new drum kit which we'll call 800 series. And then we go to this burger icon here again, and we will go to Autosample, and Sample Tank is General MIDI. So I'm going to select the General MIDI defaults, but there's a couple of things I'm going to change. I've noticed that the kicks are very loud in this kit, so I'm just going to bring maximum velocity down to 80, and I think that will even out the volumes across the kit. And we only need 24 notes, so we'll bring that down to 24, and I'm going to put the monitor on and press start. So now that I've got two new full sampled kits, I've thrown them both into a project in AUM. Drum kit here, steel drums here, and and I've thrown some MIDI at both of them. I've got a host sync on both instances of Digistix, and here's my MIDI in the sequencer, and I've got both of them in song mode looping around. But now I'm going to show you how we can make just a little bit more of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some output buses for Digistix 2. And the way that we do that is we go over here, go to audio, and we go to multibus audio unit instances, and we add, this is the first instance of Digistix here, so we add one of those, and that gives us an extra output bus. So we want another 6 of those. So now we've got 8 output buses for the first instance of Digistix, which is here. So we'll go in here and I'll show you how to route to different buses. So if you click on a pad and then look in this window here and move this on one until you get to this page here, you can select which bus you want it to go to. Now this is kick, so I want this to go to 1. This is also a kick, so that's going to 1. That's kind of a side stick. I'm going to send that to bus 2. Snare also to 2. Clap, maybe 3, I guess. Snare I'm going to send to the same as that snare, etc, etc. Okay, so now I've assigned which instruments I'd like to go to which output buses, but I want to show you that if you click options here, you can also select your output buses for each instrument in here. Now I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to press play. And now you'll see that I've got drums coming down all different buses. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is this. We're going to go into the first instance of Digistix. Now, I don't need multi-output buses for the steel drums. A stereo picture is fine for that. But what I'm going to use here is the extra buses that Digistix 2 has for effects. If you look here, you'll see that delay goes out to bus 9 and reverb goes out to bus 10. Now, if you press to enable on these, this enables Digistix's own internal effects. But if you leave them like this, then whatever you send to this reverb or delay will be sent to an output bus. So let me show you how that works. So if I go over here, my project's getting a little messy now. I'll have to sort that out in a bit. Okay, so here I go to multi-bus audio unit instances and I make sure that I select the first instance of Digistix, and then I go here and I change this output bus to number 10. 9 is delay and 10 is reverb, although in actual fact it doesn't matter what effects you want to put on that chain, but I only need one output bus for this. So I'm going to select this one and I'm going to drag it over next to the instance of Digistix that it belongs to, just to tidy my project up a little bit. There we go. Alright, now we go back into Digistix and we make sure that we've got some volume turned up on this output bus, and then what you'll need to do, I've actually already done this because it's a little laborious in this particular instance, because what you have to do is select your pad and then turn up the reverb for it. Now if we were mixing a kit, then obviously it'll be a bit different, but because I've got 64 samples in here that are all going to the same output bus, I've had to go into each one and turn up the reverb on it. And if you go to options, you'll see that you can actually do it in here if you prefer. So now let's just throw an effect onto that output bus. so that we can just demonstrate that it's actually working. Okay, now that's not necessarily the exact sound I want, but it proves that it's working. Okay, now these features are going to enable me to turn a project that sounds like this into a project that sounds like this. Well, that was a whole lot easier to do than I could possibly have imagined, and if a stupid old hippie like me can do it, then so can you. But if you do have any questions about this process, then by all means comment below the video. I always reply and I will do my very best to help you. If you would like to make a donation to help out this channel, then the information is down below the video, as are links to my merchandise, my Patreon where I help people with their music and I give away free codes and stuff. There's my website, all my music stuff, everything, blah 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 blah. So anyway, until next time, thank you very much for watching. Make lots of music, be kind, be good, behave yourselves, and do not pissy pants about. See you later.